Okay, so today I just want to do a review of hands-on large language models. I should probably start having the cover pages of the book appear as like the first image, but I haven't been doing that for any of the video reviews so far. The main, I think, point of this video is to say that overall, I do really like this book. And I think it does a very good job at conveying how the different components of a language model can be moved around, changed out, and the different techniques that can be used to improve the performance and get what you want out of a language model. There are some caveats to this, but I think because of the time that this book has been, published, which, for anyone who doesn't know, the coding for a language model, and really for a lot of machine learning, has been greatly simplified. So, for example, Meta has a auto regression model that you can, take from their module and import rather than coding up a regression model, from scratch and, tuning the parameters and such. Similar thing with large language models. You don't have to code the architecture for a transformer, for example, like the, encoding and decoding layers. You can take an auto transformer from your module, and that often comes with, if you're getting it from Hugging Face, for example, right? That transformer typically comes with the model that you're using. So, that's all been greatly simplified. So you could certainly get away with, not understanding, I think, very much for practical model generation. Though you will likely encounter issues with, different problems that can come up if you don't understand, certain things at a deep level. But, for understanding this book, I don't think you need very much. And I think the book does a very good job at, conveying the practical modular aspects of a large language model. And coupling this with other books, I think is probably very, very fantastic. So, for example, you don't need to understand the formula for the cosine of an angle between two vectors to understand the use of cosine similarity in the vector embeddings described in this book. At least I don't think you would, because none of the explanations utilize dot products or norms in this book. Now, a pro of that is that it's obviously very distillable, understandable. And so you can come in with, I think, a very limited background and understand the text. That's not to say no background. I did send this off to some other people, and they had some issues reading it. And that's fine. I do have some background on the topic, so it's hard to know exactly how easy it is to read something like this. But when you make things very understandable, you do lose details. So, and that's inevitable. There's varying ways we can describe cosine similarity, for example, or, I'll show with quantization. See, I actually have another page here with the quantization page. And again, these are just pages from the book. So, for example, I believe that the way that this book explains, quantization is basically just in terms of, reducing the size of the vector embeddings to which has the trade-off of lower precision, as you can see here, into what are called quantization blocks. And the idea is that you take these and you make them, you remove some of the bits to make them smaller, right? And I think that explanation is fine, but one of the things that you're going to lose is, for example, the mathematical definitions of the process, right? Like that these are vectors that get undergo a linear transformation onto a compression matrix, and then those get remapped through an inverse mapping process onto a reconstruction vector is going to be completely lost, I think. Maybe in some of those definitions, in the way that we describe things, right? At the very least, you're not going to be able to do the math, which is important sometimes. Sometimes. So while you can make things very understandable, you often have to do that at the expense of some detail. Do the details matter here so much, and is it even reasonable to expect that this book would include all those details? No and no. I don't think you really need those details to implement in the real world, or to understand this book and what it's doing. It's also probably not reasonable to think that it's going to be able to pack all of that math into one book. And even really mathematics for machine learning arguably didn't really do that. There's still, I think, a lot of math left on the table, and I think that if you were just left to that book, you probably still wouldn't be able to do the math effectively. Requiring other texts is kind of essential for that anyways, but also unnecessary. Aside from that, there's maybe just a very small gripe regarding the flow of the book. So, for example, arguably prompt engineering should appear after things like fine-tuning, and probably before preference tuning though, but because that's the way that the coding pipeline typically goes. So I think for chronological reasons it should probably be like that, but I don't think that necessarily takes anything away from the book. Generally though, if you took anything away from this, good book. I think it does a great job of conveying the modularity, and I think that if you read this, you'd understand, you'd have a very good idea of the different ways that you can change components in and out of a language model to get the effect that you want. And then this is also just a section on image embeddings. I guess just a very quick thing to just another concept to bring up. For example, I don't think you would understand very well what's happening at the vector level without some kind of linear algebra. How these image encodings work at definitely not at the mathematical level, but even just like from a mechanical perspective, I think that some of this does get lost without that mathematical understanding. A good litmus test, by the way, for assessing do I really understand something is whether or not you can solve problems with it. I think that's probably one of the best litmus tests. For assessing whether or not you understand something and if it made sense to you. Okay, so overall, very good book though. Yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say. Okay, bye.